All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to take retatrutide. I'll show you how to reconstitute it if you have a 5 milligram bottle, a 10 milligram bottle, a 12 milligram bottle, a 20 milligram bottle, or a 30 milligram bottle. I'm also going to give you suggestions on a starting dose, and I will give you suggestions on if you're switching from tirzepatide to retatrutide, if you're switching from semaglutide to retatrutide, where should you inject it at? Should you inject it in your stomach? Should you inject it in your arms, legs? Where should you inject it at? And then I'm going to go over some side effects that I like to touch on in every video. I'm not going to talk about the benefits of retatrutide because if you're watching this video, you know the benefits. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing about retatrutide is reconstituting it. So what you're going to need to do it as safely as possible is you're going to need to use backwater. You don't want to use any faucet water or anything like that. Backwater, you can usually get it from where the site that you order it from. You're going to need insulin syringes, 29 gauge to 31 gauge, 1 milliliter, which is 100 IUs. You're going to need alcohol pads. We need to stay safe and we need to stay hygienic. And then you need the retatrutide vial, and you're going to need a clean surface. Here's the step-by-step instructions on what you're going to need to do. Step 1 is clean the tops of both retatrutide and the backwater with alcohol pads. Draw up your chosen volume of backwater with your syringe, and I'm going to get into how much that you need to inject into the bottle in just a second. And then slowly inject the backwater into the retatrutide vial down the side of the glass. Don't blast it straight into the powder. And then you're going to gently swirl. You're not going to shake the powder until it is fully dissolved. And then you can label the vial if you wanted to so that you know the total milliliters added in the concentrate. So the next question is, how much backwater should you use? And I'm going to keep this super simple for you. I'm going to show a chart right here so that you can see exactly like how much that you should put in of each milligram, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, 12 milligrams, 20 milligrams, or 30 milligrams. Basically, what we want is every 10 unit to be a half a milligram. No matter what size bottle that you have, 5 milligram to 30, we want every 10 units to be a half a milligram. So to do that, for a 5 milligram vial, you're going to put in 1 milliliter of backwater. For a 10 milligram vial, you're going to put in 2 milliliters of backwater. For a 12 milligram vial, you're going to put in 2.4 milliliters of backwater. 20 milligrams is 4 milliliters, and 30 milligram vials is going to be 6 milliliters of backwater. And so this is going to make it super easy for you so that you know every time that you draw out, it's going to be 0.5 milligrams at 10. And I say 10 because the insulin syringes can be measured in tens. Like if you did to where you could, 5 units was 0.5. Sometimes on those 100 unit insulin syringes, it's hard to see in between the 2 and the 4 and the 6 and all that. So doing it this way is the most helpful. Some example dosing, if you have 5 milligrams per milliliter, and that's if you have a 5 milligram bottle all the way up to a 30 milligram bottle, what we just injected the backwater in is going to be 5 milligrams per milliliter. So if you want to inject 1 milligram of retatrutide, you're going to pull up 20 units. If you want to inject 2 milligrams, you're going to pull up 40 units or 0.4 milliliters. So on and so forth. And for a beginner retatrutide dose, the best dosing is going to be 0.5 to 1 milligrams. You're going to start low, assess tolerance, and then titrate up every 1 to 2 weeks. So a typical schedule can look like this. Weeks 1 through 2 is going to be 0.5 milligrams. Weeks 3 through 4 can be 1 milligrams. Weeks 5 through 6 can be 2 milligrams, and 7 plus can be 2.5 to 5 milligrams, and you can work your way up all the way to 10 to 12 milligrams depending on your tolerance, your goals, and the results that you're getting. If you're switching from tirzepatide to retatrutide, a good dose, if you're at tirzepatide 5 to 10 milligrams, a good starting dose for retatrutide is going to be 1 to 2 milligrams. Retatrutide hits a little bit harder due to its glucagon receptor activation, so don't do 1 for 1. If you're on tirzepatide at 12.5 to 15 milligrams, a good starting dose with retatrutide is going to be about 2 to 2.5 milligrams per week. If you're switching from semaglutide to retatrutide, and you're on semaglutide at 0.25 to 0.5 milligrams, a good starting dose for retatrutide is going to be 0.5 to 1 milligram. If you're on semaglutide of 1 milligram or more, retatrutide at 1 to 1.5 milligrams is a good starting dose for you. And so just in case you didn't want to write that down, I'm going to show that on the screen right here so that you can have a good little cheat sheet of a beginner dose, or if you're switching from tirzepatide, or if you're switching from semaglutide. Next question is where to inject retatrutide. Retatrutide is going to be best injected subcutaneous only That means fat, not in your muscle or anything like that. The most common areas are going to be your stomach, your love handles, your upper thighs, or the back of your arms. Does injection site matter? Technically, yes and no. Here's what's important. Retatrutide will work no matter where you inject it as long as it's in subcutaneous fat. The absorption rate can vary slightly depending on injection area. The abdomen tends to absorb faster than the thighs. Fat thickness, blood flow, and inflammation all affect absorption rates. Do people absorb differently in different areas? Yes, and here's why. Subcutaneous tissue isn't the same in every single body part. Some people notice faster onset of appetite suppression when injecting in the stomach. Others report slower and more stable absorption rates if they inject in their glutes or their thighs. Some users find less GI stress if they switch from their abdomen to their thighs. The thing is that you need to stick consistently to an injection site and not move around so that you can track your results accurately. If you switch locations week to week, it's hard to track what's really working. So here's a chart if you want to inject it in your arms, if you want to inject it in your abdomen, or if you want to inject it in your thighs. Abdomen is going to be fast, love handles is going to be moderate, thighs is going to be slow to medium, arms is going to be moderate, and it's just depending on how fast that you want it. Just make sure you stay consistent. A retatrutide video wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about side effects, and I've already mentioned some side effects, but it's worth noting again. New users can experience nausea. You can experience slight skin sunburning feeling. A lot of this is going to be dose dependent, so if you try to start too high, it can hit you really fast at once. Some people notice a very big appetite suppression, and sometimes that can be too much for somebody. Fatigue and low energy can also be another side effect that is a pretty common side effect. Headaches, brain fog. But the GI side effects are the most common. Nausea, constipation, acid reflux. Just to reiterate, I don't want to sound like a puppet repeating myself. Just start slow and work your way up from there.